Well, hello, good afternoon. So we're gonna start our NetMinds taster session. This is part of our efforts to try to communicate the ideas that we have. Uh, mm, like we have two objectives, right? One is to explain what no code is, but also to explain a little bit about how we deliver our training, right? So the idea today is during this video is during this session is to try to answer some of those questions around, okay, what is the impact and the scope that no code can have, but also, like, how is it that we deliver training on something as technical, let's say, uh, as to how to build a mobile app or a business application, right? So we're gonna start just in a few seconds. So first of all, just introducing myself. So I'm Christian Hoyos. I'm one of the NetMinds co-founders. Um, let's say that our purpose is mainly on how to enable any student, professional, or graduate on how to use tech to solve any problem that they have, any business problem that they have, right? And we all have always seen that there is a very, very common mistake when uh, when people try to deliver training on tools or framework, and is that they just show you how to maybe build something with the tool, but they don't necessarily explain to you why does it function like that, what is the purpose of that tool, and how does it work behind. It's very important for everyone to really understand not just like how it works and the functionality, but also its purpose, and even interiorize the concepts behind each of one of those frameworks and tools. Right. So we're gonna go over some slides where I'm gonna try to explain. So the idea here is first I'll give you some context on the subjects that we work with, right? That is human-centered design plus no code, and you're gonna see why we try to combine those two concepts. And then I'm going to just show you some examples on how we deliver that training and what is the structure of that training, right? And you're going to see the purpose on why the order of that training and why do we do it in that way, right? So first of all, so as you can see here, this is the phrase that we always like to showcase, right? That we're trying to solve the war, the business war, with tech plus empathy, right? That's with the use of HCD. That this is like the letters for human-centered design plus no code, right? And the idea is for everyone who is using no code tools to be able to think, design, and build their own digital solutions without having to write a single line of code, right? But as I was mentioning before, there is a misconception that, for example, a software developer just can just like have a problem on their mind, start writing some code, and they're gonna solve the problem with a piece of software. It doesn't work that way. If that would be true, like we have millions and millions of software developers, and imagine if each one of them could be able to do that, right? No, you need some structure, but also you need to have, let's say, a mindset, a special mindset to be able to use technology or to use any tool. It's not just for technologies. For you to be able to use any tool to solve problems or to create a solution that works very well, you really need to have a specific mindset, right? And we always like to start with this, and you're gonna see why we're saying this on the next slide, right? Because it's all about people and problems, right? Now, starting to begin with working a solution, to begin working on an app, maybe a mobile app or a business development app or anything you need to have a very deep understanding of the needs, the desires, and the problems that the person that is going to use that app has, right? So let's think about different scenarios, right? Let's say you're an entrepreneur and you need to create a product or a service, right? So you really need to understand what are the problems, desire, and the needs, everything that is going through the mind of the customer when they're using your product or service, right? If you have that clear, mm, you're going to be able to design and develop a better solution, right? And this is something that works not just for no code, like for anything else, right? Even if you're a software developer, you always go through this. You first need to really understand the problem to then be able to design and create the software that you really need, right? And it's after you have that clear that you can begin to prototype and start testing all those assumptions that you have around your customer, right? Now, as I was saying, you can have different scenarios. So you can be an entrepreneur, as I was mentioning, or you can have maybe an internal business problem. You need to optimize or automate an internal business process. So let's say that you have a process, for example, for your marketing campaigns, or a process where you need to generate the financial report every month. So it's the same. So you first need to understand what are the problems and the objectives of the people who need to receive that report, or the objectives of the people that are part of that process before you start designing and creating a solution, right? So what we try to do, and you're going to see in the structure of our training, is that before we go full on into, let's say, use the tools and explain the tools, we try to put everyone in the right mindset, right? On the mindset of, okay, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve. And then after you have that, you're going to be able to see with more clarity what you really need for that. And then we have another scenario where maybe you don't have a specific problem in mind. You just need to understand or learn about tech, right? And we have also that possibility, right? So what we have here is a framework that will help you also have the right mindset that whenever you come up with a problem, with a specific problem, or whenever you're going to try to solve something, you're going to be able to first like have some tools that are going to help you understand that problem, and then it's going to help you select the right tool, because you're going to see, and I'm going to show you a little image that we created, a visual representation of the no-code ecosystem that we designed according to all our experience, where you can see like all the alternatives and all the possibilities that you have around no-code. Okay, so as I was mentioning, so the idea is to uh, try to explain to people like how to solve the right problem in the right way. And what we try to do here is combining two different frameworks. One is a design mindset. So as I was mentioning before, a design mindset is just a state of mind where you're able to comprehend and really, let's say, interiorize a problem that you're trying to solve. And after having interiorized that problem, you can start testing different solutions into that problem, right? But as we know, I mean, 90% of the times, you really need something digital or something technical to start solving that problem, right? So as what we're seeing with no code is that there is not need now to be a software developer. There is no need to know how to code to start having digital solutions, right? So it's gonna look a lot more like you're creating PowerPoint slides than writing code, right? And so the idea for that we have with our training is that, okay, if you have the possibility and the understanding of having a design mindset to confront these problems, then you're going to be able to apply all of these tools to solve them, right? So after this, what I want to show you is, uh, let's go back a little bit, right? So I was telling you that this is our objective, right? We are helping students, graduates, and professionals on using technology and design principles to solve their problems. Now, uh, our training has a very and let's say our the way we train and the environment in which we train has some very specific characteristics, right? So when you are in a university and, for example, you are in an incubator, an accelerator, or you're having a group of people who want to become an entrepreneur, or you have a group of people in a, let's say, a master on marketing on a business that want to learn how to build technology, you have very different backgrounds. I mean, let me tell you, we have had a training where we have 3 or 4 coders, like people who already know how to code. We have had lawyers, we have had business majors in the same group, right? Now, as you can see, so we have had very mixed backgrounds in our training. But the idea is that our training is designed, let's say, for people that have no coding or tech knowledge. But what we have seen is that in the way we design it, we see that even the developers that come to us uh, arrive with the same amount of curiosity than everyone else, right? So the coders that come with the same level of curiosity, but at the same time they are getting a specific knowledge on how to use the no-code tools to optimize their processes, right? So this is not just for people who don't know how to code, although that's, let's say, the how we design it, like in that specific for that specific audience. But what we have seen is that in the way that we have developed it, we see that even developers and coders that come into our training are getting a lot of value from it, because they are really getting to understand how no code is automating, optimizing all the processes that they are doing right now. So they're seeing how a process that they already, for example, take I don't know, a month for them, using no code tools, it could be done in 2 or 3 days. So just think about this, taking it from 1 month or 2 or 3 days, or from 6 months, taking it to 3 or 4 weeks, right? So it's for everyone to see the value and understand the scope of it. And uh, as I was mentioning before, and what we are showing here on this slide is our approach is more towards guided learning, right? So what does it mean, right? So actually, what we try to do is we try to provide people with the skills and the ability to take advantage of these tools, even beyond our training, right? So it's like when you're, I don't know if you remember when you're trying to learn Excel, right? Microsoft Excel or spreadsheets, right? So you could have done a training, or someone may have explained it to you. But in reality, when you really learn how to use these tools or frameworks, is when you start using them and when you go on your own with them. And that's where you start really raising the right questions. So what we try to do with our training is that we try to give a guidance on, let's say, the context. So that's the first part, on the context of the subject. So we provide context on what is the scope and what is the reality of the no-code tools, and what do they work for, who are using them in the world, right? Then we go and try to teach the technical concepts behind it. And we're going to show you with an example, and then we just focus on learning by doing, right? So what we try to do is that during our training, just as an example, after one of our 2 hours workshops, each student is going to have a mobile app developed by themselves. So each student will leave the 2 hours workshop with a mobile app developed by themselves. So that's what we try to do, right? We try to have the context, as I was mentioning, explain the technical concepts, and then do an exercise, one together and one on their own, for people to start grasping and really understanding these concepts. So uh, I'm just gonna go over each one of those 3 steps with an example. I think that's the best way to explain it. So we're gonna go just by our words, right? That the best way to learn is by doing. So uh, for the first part, one thing that we always like to, let's say, do during our workshops, right, and during our training, and that we have seen that is very useful, is first need to feed people's curiosity about the subject, right? So what we try to put here is, okay, what is no code, right? Okay, no code is something that you use to create mobile apps without having to write code, right? Where you assemble different parts of an app and you can create your whole software. But then we start to go deep on, okay, this something that is widely used? So for example, do you know that half of the companies in the world are already using it? Do you know that Forbes, the Forbes magazine, and the Forbes magazine has said that this is one of the biggest trends for the following 3 years? And do you know that, for example, the forecast is that in around 4 to 5 years, 65% of all the software in the world is going to be built around no code. Now, obviously, we try to bring facts, and this is the part where we start to we try to tailor our training, and we try to approach each cohort and scenario in a different way, because we know that there are some things that may be more interesting for each audience, right? So if it's for example, a master in marketing, so we try to bring examples of marketing companies that are using no code. If it's on business, so we try to bring examples on that area, right? So what we do here on this initial part, and this is another example, is that we try to bring examples that is going to help everyone understand the impact, the scope, and the relevance of no code. In that way, everyone is going to have the curiosity that they were starting with is going to rise because of all these examples, right? So we also do this in which we bring articles and we bring content around how, for example, no code is democratizing the development of no mobile and web apps. How is it becoming even an essential skill with companies like Amazon or Mondelez using no code and even hiring people to build the software using no code? And we even bring some inspiration, some real companies that have created their whole products and services using no code, and they are now getting a good amount of revenue. So we also bring like real life examples to start bringing some inspiration about what you can do with no code. Uh, well, uh, mm, after that context, what we try and the next step is start to explain the concept. So as I was mentioning before, there is no, it's not that good, or it doesn't work that well when you just start explaining a tool, but you don't explain the concept behind that tool. But there is a specific situation here, right? When you're using technology, when you're using digital tools, and is that when, for example, you don't have any technical background, it may be you may seem confused with all the terminology that a software developer will use, right? So some terms like front end, back end, or integrations a word that may be confusing for some people. Right? So according to the students and according to the audience that we have, we try to use a lot of analogies, right? And that's a very important part of our training because we know how difficult it is to get started with any subject. It's really challenging. I mean, even for us, like some years back when we were starting, it was difficult to get started. But from our own experience and from the experience that we have had with different students, what we see is that when you bring analogies that are more grounded to people, to something that people already know, it's easier. So for example, we use, this is an example that we use, is a theater play, right? Because generally when you're building a web app or a mobile app, you're like telling a story, right? So in this case, for example, everything you see on the front stage, right? And that's like the front end of your app, right? So everything a user see on a mobile app, just think about it as the stage of a theater play. Now, everything that happens behind a theater play, so the script writers, the lights, the all the technology that goes behind. So this something there is something just the same in mobile apps or web apps, right? And it's, for example, the data, how the data is behind, how is it structured, how it's organized, right? And then you have one of the most important parts of any app, and is the integrations. How did you put everything together? How did you connect that front stage? How did you connect, for example, that scenario with all the data behind? So for example, in a theater play, okay, how what is the component that connects everything together, right? So in our case, it's integrations, but in a theater play, let's say, is the actors. The actors are the ones that bring everything to life and connect everything, like connect the script by spelling the words, and people are watching them on the front stage, right? So we try to use analogies, and after those analogies, we start to do some exercises that will show you some examples later on, right? And before going into the part of the technical concepts, uh, there is something very important uh, about the no-code tools. And as it is a trend that is very that is getting very big, you start to see too many alternatives for each thing. So if you see here, this is like a navigation tool that we have created. that according to the specific problem that you have or the specific needs that you have, which type of tool do you need, right? You may need just one tool, just no-code tool, just one no-code tool to build something. You might need to combine two or three, right? But what we do is, actually how we structure it is according to the needs of the cohort. What we try to do is we teach the tool that we think will, let's say, help explain the concepts better. But what we have found is that, for example, and just take this example. If we teach, for example, Webflow, this is a tool to create dynamic websites. But later on, you may need to build your app with Glide or with WordPress, right? If you explain just one, and we explain the concept behind how Webflow works. If you go from Webflow to another tool, you're gonna be to compare and even to translate some of the training that we do into the other tool, right? So what we have seen is that they all work with a similar structure, and the structure is actually the one that I was mentioning before with theater play, right? Front end, back end, and integrations, and then you have some specialized tools. So what we do is you see here different groups like static websites, dynamic websites, application, complex apps, and then you have tools that help you, let's say, tailor and customize those apps that you have built, right? So you have front-end tools to make it look more beautiful. You have back-end tools to connect, integrate, and have automation. And then you have tools for specific cases, right? For example, to create communities, to have a chatbot, or to scrape data from online, right? So what we see is that if we explain at least one or two tools from each one of the categories, it's going to be very easy for everyone to navigate the rest of the tools in that same category, right? So that makes it very easy for everyone to just start using all the stack of no-code tools even after or training. And finally, this part and something that, as I was mentioning before, something that we also try to tailor a little bit for each training is the exercises that we put after we have explained the concepts and then we have given some tutorials, right? And in that part, what we do is we, according to the level and the scope of the training that we're gonna see, like the different offerings that we have. But according to the level of training, we let's say try to focus on a specific subjects, right? So for example, in this case, we created this for a specific training where we had students on marketing and business that wanted to learn how to automate and take charge of different business processes, right? So in that case, what we did was we explained the concept of database relationships. So again, as I was mentioning before, we try to use analogies, and it's literally the literal example that we use is parent and child, like families, like because databases in no-code apps or in any app work as family, let's say, right? So you have like grandparents, parents, and children. So I'm just gonna give the example that we gave here, right? And is that if you, for example, have a sales person, right? You have a salesperson that have 3 clients. So those 3 clients are 3 children, 3 offsprings from that, right? But at the same time, for example, he has had 3 interactions with one of those children, right? So these children already have 3 children. So those 3 interactions are children of the clients, and then the clients are children of the salesperson. So we always try to use analogies, and then we do an exercise where we first explain a very simple example of how to do it, and then we give an exercise to the group, either in a business idea they already have, or in some if they don't have a business idea yet, or they don't have something concrete to work on. We give them an exercise for them to learn on their own, right? So, and during that process, we follow up and we provide feedback for them to learn about it, right? And finally, before we go there, just to show you the impact and the way we build stuff. I'm just wanted to show you an example of an exercise that we did, right? And it's just to show you the power of no code and how we deliver training. So let's say what we try to showcase is do very simple exercises just like this, right? Let's say that you have a project that you're working on, and that you have a list of contacts on that project, for example, in just a spreadsheet. And that's what we usually use, right? And usually in all organizations and businesses, we use a lot of spreadsheets for everything, like almost for everything. So let's say you have a spreadsheet with all the information about a project, right? You have all the contacts, all the resources, for example, so all the links that you have there, and you have all the events for that project, right? What we do, and what we try to showcase, for example, and this is a real example that we did, is that in just 20 minutes, uh, we go through the steps on how to create a mobile app to just manage this and go from this to this, right? Here you have exactly the same. As you can see, you have the contacts, for example. So here you have Charles and Laura, all the two contacts that we have here for this example. And you see here on the app that you have them here. You're going to be able to even email them, call them, right? So this is a mobile app that in just, as I was mentioning, just 20, 30 minutes, you're going to be able to share with friends, with clients, with users. And it's all going to be done inside the same training, right? So this is just an example of what we could do. And as I was mentioning before, mm, the tool and the type of exercise that we build, it can be different, right? Because uh, just an example for a marketing master that we did, what they wanted to learn was more around automation, right? So what we did was to showcase some tools and to even use those tools during the session on how to, for example, connect your company CRM with your calendar, and then from the calendar connect it with your Slack channel, and then, for example, connect all that information with an app, with a mobile app, just like the one that we were seeing before, right? So as I was saying, so just reiterating on the same, and because I wanted to be very clear, right? We tried for the exercises to be very concise and very concrete on teaching a concept, but also we want everyone to leave with something real, with something tangible from each one of the sessions. And finally, just for the last part, for the just to give you some guidance on how we work and the type of alternatives that we have. We have, let's say, three types of training, and then a special service that we provide as well, right? So these three targeted workshop, tailored boot camps, and module courses, they all have, let's say, a similar structure as the same structure that I was mentioning before, right? So we try to explain the trend, we explain and give analogies, provide analogies around each one of the concepts, and then we focus a lot on exercises. So I will say that just 10, 15% of the sessions go into the first two, into trends and concepts, and almost 85, 80% of the sessions go into doing real exercises and working on it. So just to see a little difference between them, because according to the needs. So the targeted workshops, these are 2 to 4 hours workshops in which we design and deliver a session with a specific target. So the examples that I was giving before, the marketing students wanted to learn how to automate, right? So we provide a specific workshop and we train them on specific tools for that, right? It's not a comprehensive training around all the no-code tools that I was mentioning before, but it will help them at least get an introduction to the subject of no code, and even start to navigate it on their own if they want. But then you have another level that we call it boot camps. So in this case, it's 1 or 2 days of training, and in this one, what we do is that we focus more on and this is more for the scenario where people already have a business idea or have something to work on, right? So as I was saying before, so we give the context, we provide the technical concepts, but then what we do is that we design the exercises to be applied to the challenges or businesses that they already have, right? So that by the end of that day or those 2 days of training, people has a prototype that had already tested with clients. And then we have the deeper one. So the module courses. This is more when you want, for example, students, or when you want people at your business to really learn the extent of all the no-code tools, right? To really learn how to navigate them all. So this can run up to 4 weeks. And what we do is that each week we give all the participants an exercise that they need to deliver on Friday, right? And how it works is that on Monday, we have a short session explaining the tools that we're going to use, the concept that they need to learn, and they're going to have during the whole week access to resources. They're going to have access to us to ask questions, and to the community to start asking questions to the other people in the cohort. In the middle of the week, we do a follow-up session to answer questions online, and then at the end of the week, they will deliver the task that they were presented with. Now, the outcome with this is that by the end of the 4 weeks, for example, in the longest one, people is not only going to have an introduction to no code, right? They will finish with almost 5 to 6 apps created by themselves, and with a real understanding of all the categories of no-code tools, right? So they're gonna really have all the basics and all the knowledge to even navigate all these tools and start answering every question that they need around no-code tools. And then finally, as I was saying, we have a special service that we have been asked a lot by universities after we have worked in some of the subjects here. And it's actually something that students have asked, right? After they have gone through a workshop, they say, "Oh, can this be part of a module? Can this be part of my undergrad or my master?" So we started doing this, okay, we can help you with that as well. So what we do is that we also provide consultancy and delivery services to implement no code and human-centered design as part of a model. So let's say that you have a module where students have an assignment, or they need to have like real world interaction. So we can co-design and co-deliver this type of models for people to start using human-centered design and no code as part of the model, right? To use them to, for example, deliver an assignment or to interact with real-world clients even. And well, that's it for this session. And as you have seen, and hopefully it have become a bit clearer, because as I was mentioning at the beginning, the idea is that we have given a lot of thought in the team on ways on how to really explain and showcase the impact of no code, but also to people to understand, okay, if this is no code, are you able to really explain this to someone in a training form, right? So we said, okay, let's do something more interactive where we start explaining people and receive comments around it. So yes, so that was the idea. We just wanted to help everyone understand how we deliver training, what is the scope, the different alternatives we have. And you can see here on the slide that you can follow us. You can go to our webpage and learn a little bit more about us. But obviously, it's even better, and it will be lovely if you reach out to us with any question you have, with any concern you have. Uh, and that's it for today. I mean, thank you so much for watching us, and hope to have a great rest of the week.